So let me say at the outset, I'm not a climate change denier. I'm just not a climate change alarmist. What I am is I'm a debt and deficit, U.S. federal government debt and deficit alarmist. And so I certainly align myself with Dr. Leeper. Dr. Leeper, you're talking about the fact that the bond market's been weak for U.S. Treasuries. As the Federal Reserve has been going into the bond market floating debt, what is the cost of that debt? What is the interest rate they've been paying on recent debt? I mean, is there, again, we have different maturity levels through the government. Last year on public debt, the cost of that debt was about 2.5%, correct?
Yeah, it's gone up.
Did you know what the cost of our debt was in the last 3 decades of the last century, 70s, 80s, and 90s?
It was substantially lower. Is that what you're saying? Because
I think it was substantially higher, wasn't it?
I'm not sure what you mean by the cost.
So the interest cost, the interest rate. Again, I want you to describe what a debt crisis is going to look like. As we become less and less creditworthy, as creditors look at the United States and say, they may not pay this money back. I'm still loaned the money, but I'm going to ask for a higher interest rate. I mean, I don't think we've factored that into this discussion.
I think that's correct. And a debt crisis in the United States would first manifest as very high inflation. And the reason for that is because these bonds are denominated in dollars, and they're just a promise to repay in dollars. And if I think that when I get repaid in dollars, the dollars are going to buy fewer goods, then I want to get rid of those bonds today. And the way I do that is I go out and buy stuff, raises inflation. And so that would be the first instance, I think.
So again, we don't focus enough on the numbers here. Again, here we're talking about climate, can do something about the bond market, which I think is not realistic. I agree with Dr. Kahn. Last fiscal year 2022, our interest expense was $476 billion. Last year, it was $659 billion, a $183 billion increase, 38% increase. According to CBO, in 10 years, that expense will be $1.44 trillion. But again, that's an overall average interest rate of 3.1% compared to 2.5% for last year. I'm not so sure 3.1% is a realistic rate. I think that'll be way too low.
Good evening, friends. I have breaking news to share with you today. The Internal Revenue Service has just made an announcement. Millions of Americans can start to file their taxes soon and receive their tax refund checks earlier than normal. Top experts are expecting to see many households receive a check that can be worth as much as $3,000, but some households may need to take action in order to receive a larger refund. Dear friends, please make sure that you watch until the end of this video. Also, if you would like to enter this week's giveaway, please make sure that you click and like several of my videos, and then comment below the keyword of each video that you watch. The more videos that you comment on, friends, the greater your chances of winning these giveaways. According to Yahoo News, if you like to file your taxes early, there is some good news. The Internal Revenue Service has confirmed it will begin accepting and processing 2023 federal income tax returns starting on Monday, January 29th. If you are not an early bird, be sure to file your return and pay any remaining taxes owed by the filing deadline of Monday, April 15th. However, experts have noted that some tax filers will have a later deadline. For instance, taxpayers in the state of Maine and Massachusetts will have until April 17th to submit their returns due to those states' holidays, and anyone living or doing business in a federally declared disaster area may have a later date. If you were affected by the storms and tornadoes that started on December 9th in parts of Tennessee, you will have until June 17th, 2024 to file and pay what you owe. Here is a list of federally declared disaster areas and information on what forms of tax relief are available. But if you cannot file by mid-April, do make sure to apply for an automatic 6-month filing extension by April 15th so you can avoid being charged a late filing penalty. And experts have noted that regardless of when you file, if you still owe money to the IRS for the tax year 2023, that amount is due by your April filing deadline. If you do not send the payment by the general filing deadline, you may face a late payment penalty with interest. The good news is that the majority of tax filers typically receive a refund, and the IRS usually issues them within 21 days of accepting your return. The agency notes that if you are claiming an earned income tax credit, the IRS cannot, by law, issue the EITC-related refund before mid-February. The tax agency says that those funds will be available for filers starting on February 27th. Last year, from more than 160 million returns filed, the Internal Revenue Service issued nearly 105 million refunds. The average refund was $3,054. A congressional budget deal could deflate an IRS effort to pursue wealthy tax cheats. President Biden added nearly $80 billion in new IRS funding to the Inflation Reduction Act. This money has been set aside to collect unpaid taxes from the wealthy and to improve the agency's customer service, among other uses. Congressional Republicans have been chipping away at the windfall. In the latest budget deal, the IRS would lose $20 billion of the new funding in 2024. Republican lawmakers have pushed for the IRS cuts, arguing that a campaign of audits would hurt small businesses and regular Americans. Last spring, Biden and then House Speaker Kevin McCarthy had agreed to reduce the appropriation by $20 billion. So what changed over the weekend was the timing of the cuts. According to Politico, the reduction has been front-loaded to this year rather than phased in over two. Congress has trimmed the tax agency's budget over the years, making it harder for the IRS to audit taxpayers who don't actually pay taxes. The new money will empower the IRS to go after tax cheats, earning more than $400,000 a year. It is a threshold that roughly corresponds to the top 2% of American earners. Biden contends that nearly $80 billion would leverage as much as $400 billion over a decade in unpaid taxes from the wealthy. Some of the new money is intended to improve IRS technology, reduce wait times for people who call the agency, and then process refunds more quickly. IRS officials counter that middle-income Americans will face no higher risk of audit in the years to come, with or without new funding. Well, my magnificent and most marvelous friends, that is the end of my daily stimulus update video for today. Dear friends, thank you very much for being part of this community. To say thank you, I will be announcing several winners for the Walmart gift card giveaway. If you would like to enter the weekly giveaway, friends, all you will have to do is click and like several of my videos and then comment below the keyword of each videos that you watch. The more videos that you comment on, friends, the greater your chances of winning these giveaways. Thank you and have a wonderful and very blessed week.